I am happy to invite my speakers for today. Welcome to our panel discussion. Panel discussion name is TFS versus JIRA, or JIRA versus TFS, who prefers what. And we will discuss application lifecycle management, collaborating tools for the development. And I am happy to invite our speakers. We have two for both systems, so let's start with JIRA. From this side, Benjamin Barnes, Digital Project Manager at RWE NPower, the UK RWE. We work them on projects. The second one for JIRA here is our former colleague, now our external colleague, Miroslav Králik. He's Atlassian Evangelist at MSD. And then we have two speakers for TFS. Milan Kočí, our development director here at ACTUM. And Ian Jordan, senior developer at senior web developer at RWE NPower.
Hello.
So guys, let's start. And for the beginning, I have one question, obvious question for each of you. What of the systems do you like the most, JIRA or TFS? Ben?
JIRA.
What about Ian? What do you prefer?
TFS.
And Miroslav, what do you like the most?
Of course, JIRA.
Of course, JIRA. And what about Milan Kočí?
Well, TFS.
Okay, guys, thank you for very deep discussions. Goodbye, audience. Thank you for attendance. Back to the machines. Well, anyway, now a bit more serious. As we discussed, as we already said, we are going to discuss application lifecycle management. We are going to look to these four topics. So first one, we will set up the projects, or we will discuss how to set up the projects in JIRA or in TFS, how to create user stories, and how to manage tasks and subtasks. Then we can talk a bit about the development and how these systems are connected to the control version systems repositories. Then we will speak a little bit about building and testing, and then obviously about the deployment. And after these shows, there will be a place for your questions. So we can get started, and I think we can start with JIRA, and I will ask Miroslav to come here and show us how he set up his project.
Yeah, I can start. Yeah.
Or
I can start with
maybe
user
we
stories,
can
and then I'll hand you
yeah.
to them.
And just a second.
Well, good afternoon, everybody. It's my fault we started half an hour late. Apologies for that, so you can boo me at the end if you feel necessary. I've been using JIRA for about 4 years now. I've used it in two situations. One was with an agency that I used to run. We used JIRA to run multiple projects with multiple clients. At RWE NPower, we use JIRA just for the one project, which is npower.com. I prefer JIRA as a project manager. These guys will speak about it from a development point of view. As a project manager, it gives me everything I need. I've got access to organise and manage everything, the entire product catalogue through to what gets done next. I can work with the product owner to help make sure that's all in order. It gives me all the reporting tools I need at the other end. See my burn downs instantly. I can make sure that I'm tapping shoulders all day, every day, making sure things are getting done, really annoying project manager style. And that's where the Scrum Master of me comes in as well. So the project manager, we like to see those things. The Scrum Master likes to get involved with the sprint boards and work the guys through it. I've found it really easy for me to also onboarding any new guys into the team. It's quite quick for me to sit with them and JIRA and just go through how we use it, what they need to do. And actually from a developer's point of view, from the point of view of moving issues through the Scrum board, it's relatively simple. It takes about 10 minutes to onboard someone fully into that. We increase their knowledge by adding timesheets and things like that, but generally it's pretty quick to onboard. So the JIRA interface always starts with this dashboard, and I can completely customize this dashboard with whatever I want to add to it, and I can add widgets and all sorts of things on there, reports I want to see. At the moment I've got several widgets on there, one which is issues that might be assigned to me, another thing is a general activity stream for everything that's going on within my projects. You can customize those, you can have burn downs on there, you can have whatever you feel you need to be able to see. So as a developer, your dashboard can show the issues related to you, it can show your open issues versus your closed issues, the kind of rate you're working at to close those down. So there's all sorts of helpful information on that dashboard. And then JIRA is generally split into these items at the top, dashboards which we're on, and then we break it down into projects. Projects break down into epics, user stories, tasks, subtasks, and then obviously projects go through boards. We had a bit of a heated discussion last week about whether you can run more than one project through a board or not. It's probably for another day, but we tend to run more than one project through a single board depending on what the team's doing at the time. So these menus also build themselves dynamically based on your preferences. So as you start to look at boards more often, they'll appear at the top. As you access boards, they'll appear in that menu as well. So at first it seems pretty blank and empty, but it means that you only see the things that you're concerned with. I've created a mock project which I've called Tomahawk, which was the code name of one of our projects last year. And from there I can obviously get a view of everything that I've got going on in there. By selecting an individual project, I go into full detail on that project, and from that screen I can also administrate the project as well. So an update to JIRA recently, we're using an older version of this, but this is a great update because now it includes all my sprint boards and stuff in one go as well. Issues, this is a good filtering tool for any issues in JIRA, from projects through to subtasks, and it just works on a basic SQL search function. You can create your own search functions as well, configure those to make sure that you can run quick reports and run quick searches and export all that out. You can do that by creating filters up here, and you can just do those by manually ticking the projects and things you want to access, the type of issues you want to be able to view. I just want to view my stories in this case. Particular issues are assigned to a particular person, etc., etc., and then that list will then populate. From there, I can create that as a repeating filter, save that, and it will appear in my list at the top. And then I can just run that filter whenever I want to find the issues I'm looking for. So when we've got big backlogs of issues, multiple projects, it's a very quick way to grab what I need. There's also tools to export those and bulk change those as well. So bulk change is really handy. If I've got, if my tester leaves because he's had enough of me, and I get a new tester on board, I can quickly assign all the issues to another tester.
I have one question. Is
Yes?
there one-click way how to get rid of all the filters?
To get rid of,
All the
no,
filters?
you have to go back through these. You go back through these
so
and
there
uncheck
is
them.
no one-click way.
Just clear all.
Clear
not
all.
unless there is in this version. There's not in the version I've got. No.
Uh-huh.
There is in TFS, I take it.
No, no, but
I found the third.
this is our everyday struggling when searching for something, and you have to think, oh, okay, I have this filter for this project,
Yeah.
for this project, for this person.
Actually, there is, if I can say, there
Yeah,
is
yes,
a button,
if you
there
know where it is.
There
So
is a
show
button,
us,
new
I think.
filter, which will actually clear your filters at the left of side. New filter button.
And that'll just start again.
Yeah.
Okay,
Ah.
that's not in my version.
So there
That's
is.
great. There is then, yes, yes. So should we stop the video, we'll go back and I'll...
Yes,
so that's the first part, find issues. And then boards, it'll list on my boards there, and we'll go to the boards in a second to have a look at what that looks like. The one thing JIRA does have at all times is the create button from almost any page. I can also open that by creating, by hitting C. The quick keys are really useful to quickly jump into issues, quickly create issues.
Mhm.
There's also edit E, assign A, and it'll just bring those boxes up for you. The one thing I like about JIRA is the fact that everybody can customize your input fields. You can customize the forms you see. From a product owner's point of view, you might have a really big list of things you need to input here, and sometimes you just want to quickly run through issues one at a time. So I can actually customize the fields that I see within this creation box and just tick the ones that I actually want to be able to edit It makes that box a lot easier to fill in. It'll save my settings on that, so when I come back into this, my fields configured are always the same.
But just the users with certain privileges can do these things?
No, I don't think so.
Everyone actually.
Everyone, because you're just configuring the appearance of the fields. You're not configuring whether you can edit them or not. If you don't have access to edit, then you won't be able to change those fields. So that button appears always up here, which is really useful. So I've got an example project here where I've added some issues in. There's 3 views within JIRA. The backlog, which I refer to as the planning view, it's where all the guys who need to do any planning tend to find themselves more often. The working view, which is the sprint board, and then the reporting view, which is where the project manager can get a view on what's going on in the project. You tend to really only work in one of those boards. I sometimes find my developers jumping back to the backlog, because sometimes it's a bit easier to find issues in the backlog than it is on the sprint board. Mainly because if you've got a lot of tasks, a lot of people, a lot of assignees, this list can get pretty big. And it's sometimes quite difficult to see what's in your column and what's being proposed to be done. So with each of the stories or tasks or issues, everything's referred to as an issue within JIRA. You can see quite a lot of detail within one issue. Each issue comes with its own code. You can't change those codes. Those are set. They'll be generated automatically. If you delete an issue, the next one you add won't take that code on. There's no real way of permanently doing anything like that. It tells me a lot of other things here, what type of issue we've got. We've got a bug there, which epic it's attached to, the priority of that issue, who it's assigned to. JIRA's recently changed its little avatars, so you can choose from one of many avatars or add your own. I find that really useful as a project manager, because I can quickly, at a glance, see who's working on what and who's assigned which issues to themselves. You can also customise these and show a lot more information within those cards as well, which is really helpful. I tend to show components if I'm working on something with a lot of components.
You can choose everybody the same avatar. So
Yeah. Yes. Yeah. Then I don't know who's working on what. Yeah, yeah. We get a lot of football team badges in ours.
Yes.
Yeah. So this is the so this is the sprint board view. At the moment we've got 3 columns in here. We've got 3 columns to do, in progress, and done. You can configure this to add as many columns as you want, as long as you adhere to the workflow to which you're working. So I'll show you workflows in a second.
We will get to workflows later on.
Fine. Okay. So what it does is it locks your workflow to those sections. But I'll quickly show you how to configure the board once I've been through these. So this is the backlog board. It contains both the current sprint, possibly the next sprint I'm planning, and also the full backlog after that in a list view. On the left hand side, I can break that down by issue or by version. If I click all issues, it will show me everything in this right hand side. If I want to filter down and just see my version 2 issues, it will then cut that down. And the same again, version 2, anything to do with the first epic. If I click that, it will automatically filter that. I'm going to talk about the downside of JIRA. These are really lightly coloured. Sometimes you're missing issues, and what you don't realise is you've just got one of these clicked. I do it all the time. It's really difficult to see which one you've got selected. But there's also a lot more things you can see about either epics or versions down here, and you can even break versions down by the number of issues that are outstanding, remaining to be completed. And there's also a progress bar here of how are you doing, which is really useful when you're delivering fast pace and you need to see which versions on time, which versions off time, and which epics you're going to complete. These versions and things are created, can be created in an admin area, but what JIRA have done recently is added the ability to edit these within this space, which makes life much quicker. And by clicking that, I can just jump straight to the edit board for that particular version.
Okay. This is quite enough for the
Yep.
introduction. Thank you.
So, all those views and everything you can do. Okay?
Yeah, sure.
New experience for me is that JIRA can be really fast if it's empty.
Or it's on your network.
Or local
When you're
network,
using it,
but
yeah.
usually we have our clients, so they run the system. So
RWE's IT version of JIRA is really slow.
I still think it can be fast enough. So, but it depends where it is hosted, of course.
Yes.
yeah, sure. Okay, thanks
Okay.
for
So that's
JIRA
project
introduction,
manager.
and now let's have some TFS introduction.
You want to do it?
Guys, who's gonna talk?
I don't mind. Should I do it?
Okay.
Okay.
Yeah,
come
okay.
with it.
Okay, so TFS. As you can see, it's nice and shiny. With a lot of colors, not just blue. No,
Is that the kind of debate we're getting into, is it?
it's my two secret account for it.
I don't like the font though.
Okay, so basically it's the same. You will start with some dashboard. You can open the project or create a new one very easy. You can choose your methodology, your source control, which we will get there later, and open your project. From the project manager view, you can see the dashboard with a lot of really useless widgets, some of them. You can edit your dashboard, add a new widget. We have a lot of them.
Is it possible to speak a little louder, please?
What? It's possible. Okay, so it's the similar functionality as in JIRA. So you have your dashboard, you can put the widgets here. You can see the progress in the sprint, you can see burn down chart, and all of this stuff. And we have the basic view for the work, which is nearly the same, but here you have the filters for epics, features, and stories. And of course you can expand everything. So if you go to epics, you can see it in this nice tree. What you can do is to add a bug which is related to some feature. Of course, developers are not creating bugs. There's a new features which were not planned, but we have possibility to call it a bug. Basically, bug is reported this way, and that's all. And I'll handle it. And here you can work with the filtering. It's done in a different way. You can create the queries. You can use the default ones, which are shared for the iterations, troubleshooting, or you can create your own. Again, it's very similar to JIRA, so you can select the columns you want to have in your report. For example, state is equal to, and now you can select the states. Of course, you can add a new clause with some logic, or and you can group these conditions, and you can configure your results. So you can add the columns to the result set just by clicking here. And if you run the query, you can see the results here directly. So you can just test it, how is it working, and you can see everything here. Of course, we have, leave this page. We have the board. Again, you can filter it by the epics. You can directly add the item. So now I can create directly a new epic from the board. Or I can have my iteration board, so I can see the work assigned for this iteration. And the biggest feature of the TFS is that you can drag and drop it. So you can change the state, even you have to open the task and set the state to the new one. And it works on touch devices too.
Yes.
So it's a really comfortable way how to manage the tasks during the sprint. And with the queries, you can do some magic, so you can get all the reports you need, with the fields you need. And the greatest benefit of these queries is that you can connect them directly to the Excel and get the data there and calculate some values you need. So you don't have to write in a SQL logic, you just download the data to the Excel. Do you have Excel here?
Yes, Excel is there.
Oh.
Click the start button.
That's easy, but those glasses are for long distance. So you just go here, select the project, Okay, I have no queries here, so I have to use some.
Take some. Share my box.
No, it's not my back, the one I created. But we have no completed task.
Just open issues.
Active box.
Yeah.
Active tasks.
So. No, it's not here, but it should be here. So you get a nice list of your tasks. You can edit them, you can change everything, and then you can do the mass upload by publish button. So if you need to edit, for example, state of 100 tasks in one step, you can do it in Excel and then push it to the server.
So there is team ribbon in Excel connecting to Team
Yeah.
Foundation server. Okay.
Be careful if you, for example, delete the estimations and publish it to the TFS server, you are done.
You can't, I don't think you can bulk change.
There is
actually.
no
Yeah,
undo.
you can.
There is no undo in this way. You change it once and it's done. Okay, so from the project management point of view, you can of course set the estimations for the task. So here you can set the story points, you can manage the priority, you can manage the risks, you can select the area of the task, so if it's business value, if it's just development, for example, software architecture, so I'm preparing something to deliver the value. Next benefit is that you can link the tasks between each other or between the user stories epics, and you can connect your commits to the source control. Again, will be discussed later, but this is a really useful thing. If you are trying to solve the bug, you can get directly links to the commits, and you can see the code that was changed and where the bug was created. So for TFS, from this point of view, that's all. And now we can start with some practical tasks.
Thank you. So we could see how we can create and set up the project, how we can work easily with the boards and with the list of tasks, subtasks. And now maybe it's time to do with development, because we are a development company, so we focus mainly to this part of work. And yeah, they say that TFS is perfect because it's totally integrated into Visual Studio. But let's hear something from Atlassian part, from JIRA, if Visual Studio is really needed and only tool for development, or how do you connect with JIRA with our work, with development?
So this is JIRA, and I have here a Bitbucket, which is a source control application where you can actually have the project repositories and store their application codes. And this is another product from Atlassian, and the benefit of having maybe these or maybe more Atlassian products is that they are tightly connected together. So if you do something in one product, you may get some of the data in other products, and automatically it pushes some other information, and you can generate reports on different places in different products, for example. For this Bitbucket, it is already integrated with JIRA. It is done by application links, and I will now just demonstrate when you will push some application changes into the repository, it will appear automatically in JIRA ticket. And I will show you how it is connected. So let's say I'm going to work on this JIRA ticket. What I need is the JIRA ticket ID, which is used in commit messages, and then Bitbucket is able to recognize that, okay, this is the JIRA ticket I'm working on, and this change is related to this JIRA ticket. So
for that reason, you take a copy of that ticket number.
You may copy it here or just remember, so it's up to you.
Okay.
Yeah, which way you will choose. And I will go to Bitbucket. I have configured actually this project. So I create project.
So
And instead of actually using a command line, because I have it in different computer, I will choose either way, and I will use functionality of this button. So I will create a new file in my repository. So it is a change in the repository. And I will let's say, put our tests like this, and I want to make some content of it. So let's say this is test content, and I want to now save the file. This is a commit message that you are typically putting there when you are pushing something to repository. And this is actually the way where you can paste the JIRA ticket ID.
So this is the place where human factor comes into scene.
Yes, exactly.
And when everything got broken.
So potentially, yes. So let's
English keyboard.
yes, I'm not used to work with that. So you may change this sentence, depends what change you did to the file, so you may customize it, but I will keep it like it is. And now when I will commit the change, and I will return back to the JIRA ticket, and I will refresh it. You can see in the development section there is a new commit associated with the JIRA ticket. And you can exactly see what is the commit message, what is the commit, and you can even show what files or what changes have been done within that, and you can just go straight to the repository by clicking on the commit message. And you can see the change.
But before doing this, you somehow set up that your repository is connected to this project.
Yeah, basically you are just connecting Bitbucket itself, the application with JIRA application. They are used in JIRA application links, where you can very easily integrate it. Actually, I was setting this cloud version of this product, so it was just one link and all the products have been integrated together, so I didn't have to do anything. But of course you can do it here, application links, and there are the products that are connected to it. So there is also Confluence except of this. And so this is one thing. So it is connected to JIRA, and I have also integrated Bitbucket with integration server, which I used Jenkins for this purpose. And in Jenkins, you generally create your jobs, and you are configuring one job per specific repository. So when someone will push any changes to this repository, it will trigger an action in Jenkins integration server, and it will do something. Usually what it does, it will download the application code from the storage, and it will perform some tests and maybe build the application. And the result of that may be some application, let's say JAR file, if it is for JAR, or some VOR file, or anything like that. And then you may decide, you may call any scripts you like actually, and you may decide what do you want to do from that point. Maybe you want to push it to some server directly, or you want to maybe push it to different application like Nexus or Artifactory, where you are storing artifacts, or you may do anything else. So when I go to Jenkins, actually right now you cannot see, but this is actually the build that has been triggered and finished, number 6.
So this is how you can do a continuous integration.
Yes, and part of the build you can actually define what do you want to do with the stuff. So you can call the scripts and do the stuff.
Yeah.
So this is the way how it works. It's just simple demonstration. One more thing maybe for Bitbucket is code review and pull request that are part of Bitbucket.
Yes.
So maybe I can dive into this one. So what is a usually a quite good practice is to prevent from pushing any changes directly to your master repository, and do it through pull request. Pull request means that you have some temporary branch, like maybe feature, and you are working on this feature. It may represent one JIRA ticket, let's say. When you complete it, you want to mark these changes to the master to do, let's say, production branch. And you can do it through the pull request, that you will create pull request, and you basically say, I want to merge these changes from my feature branch to the master branch. And it will create a pull request in this section, for example. There is nothing. I have it in different computers, so maybe I will show you after that. And let me just click on here. So let's say,
So I committed something and I go and create pull requests from
yes, you
Then
have
push. Yes.
you have your temporary branch like feature, and on this you work. You can have there are many commits you like, and at some point you will say, okay, this is completed. I want to push it to the master, so the root branch of the application. So you can do it through this, and there you define in the description, okay, what changes have been done within my feature. There may be one or more. It may be related to maybe one or more tickets, JIRA. And you again can commit this pull request to JIRA tickets by saying, writing JIRA IDs. You can have one or multiple actually. And when this is done, then you can actually say who will be the reviewers of this pull request or the changes that I have done. The good practice is to have there at least one or two people, maybe from other teams, who need to go through the code and they need to approve the change. As soon as they approve the change, there will be a menu when I would submit it, but I will show later. There will be the names who needs to approve it. You can define groups or specific people, and also as soon as the requirements are met, meaning like there is set like at least one approver needs to approve it. He will approve it. There is a button merge which will activate, and after that you can merge these two branches together. So you basically can increase the quality of the code because you have kind of control, and there is always maybe someone who needs to go through the code and see, okay, there is no bug, maybe we could write something in better way, and so on. And also you can actually configure it that way if you have it connected maybe to Jenkins, that you want to have also one successful Jenkins build of these changes. So if you will commit the changes or will create this pull request, it will automatically trigger an action in Jenkins, it will build it, and if it is successful, it will synchronize with this and it will put our one more approval actually.
Question.
So, yes.
Any possibility to integrate Visual Studio, this commits or something like that?
Good question. I'm not sure actually because I was not working with Visual Studio.
But any integration in different IDEs?
With you mean Bitbucket specifically,
Yes.
right? Not sure. I would say there will be at least a plugin available for it, but I'm not sure.
Yeah, there is.
Another question, what's the source control system behind the Bitbucket?
This is Git. So you may also define there if you are using maybe Git flow or Git simplified flow. Difference between them is if you want to separate maybe your development environment and maybe production environment, and you want to maybe increase the quality of your production repository, so you separate them, and when you want to push something from your development branch to master one, you do it through release branches, for example. So it is different approaches. Some teams like the simplified version, some other maybe Git flow, so it depends on the specific needs.
But to understand the full workflow of this feature, you first commit, then push to your branch, then make the pull request to other branch, yes?
Yes.
And then it's merge. And then you resolve conflicts and then
Then it's not merged, it must be approved.
It must be first
So
approved.
the code reviewer
okay,
must
before merge,
clean.
it should be approved, yes?
Then it can be, as we heard, even complicated because your Jenkins build must be successful,
Yes.
and then you can merge.
Okay.
And you can also set for the branches and repositories if you want to prevent from maybe deletion of your branches or repositories, so it is part of the configuration as well. Or if you want to actually prevent from pushing directly to the repository, and you want to do it only through pull request. So this is part of the configuration that you can do it there.
Okay.
And yeah, that's I think
Yeah,
this part.
we'll get there later on. So this is for working with code.
Uh-huh.
For the JIRA, We have heard that there is a human factor trouble
Which one?
about assigning the JIRA tickets to the.
One more question. Is it possible to integrate the JIRA with other source control to view commits inside the tickets?
Sure, yes, of course it is possible. For example, I know that Bitbucket, for example, maybe Králik, it is from Google, they are working, and there are others that will be compatible, for sure. Yeah.
GitHub.
For sure, I'm sure.
Or TFS even.
Oh, this is actually the one that I'm not sure. But
We are not using Subversion in any project, or are we using Subversion somewhere?
Unfortunately, no.
Okay, so let's have a closer look to how to work with code in TFS.
From here, I mean, I assume most of everybody's familiar with checking in code into Visual Studio. From here, what I would say is once
You also have a Visual Studio.
I was really going to go through here, how we basically work with the build environments, and how it basically builds together. So what we basically have here is we have a way of being able to build triggers from when we're checking code. So what we've been able to do here is you're able to create automated build definitions based on things that are being checked in. And this allows you to be able to create templates directly from tasks that are being checked in. So look here.
The build is the next topic, no?
Oh, is it right?
Now
Okay.
it's code.
Code.
topic.
So
Okay.
Oh, yes, I work with the
now
code.
changes in code,
Like-
commits, and their connection to the
Code reviews and something like this.
to the
Is it
TFS
possible?
tasks. Code
Oh,
reviews.
okay.
No, it's
sorry.
not the code tab.
Yeah. Do you want to help me out here? Yeah. Do you
Yeah,
want to help me out here?
Have everything open here, so let's get back to the TFS on the web.
You see how easy is this TFS? But they must
It's
come
easy
to
because
you
this is
guys.
Visual Studio.
We have need one.
Okay, so let's go to the code folder.
Yeah.
Okay, so now you can see, you can switch the branches here. I have one more. And now, as you can see, I have all the projects here, which are part of the solution. You can see the source code, so now I can check the history of the commits on the file. By me, of course. Some more interesting file than only the one commit. I'm not sure if there is something like this, but maybe here. Yeah. So now you can see the history of the file with comments which are required to commit from directly from the Visual Studio. So if I do something like this here, and then I will go to Team Explorer. I can directly see the changes and create a commit.
Now there comes the time where JIRA needs human factor. How do we connect this change to the specific task?
Oh, in the same way. No, basically there are not so many differences, just the layout. But of course I can do it here in Visual Studio if I know the
Yes,
ID.
related work items. This is what I wanted to ask.
Okay, hopefully it will get something. Yeah.
Okay, so you have to know the ID.
You have to
but
know the ID, so
still
basically
you can search through them. So
you
it's
have to
not
search.
not that dependent on a human factor.
You can get the query so you can make it easier. You can pick just the tasks from the iteration and work with this. And now I can commit this locally, or I can commit this and push. That means that it goes directly to the server, or I can sync everything. That means that I pull the data from the server first, merge it, and then I push the result back, which is the worst approach.
Yeah.
Better core team knows. So let's do just the push. I first save the file. And now Okay, and now you can see it's not working. Probably the rights of the user.
Oh yeah,
Oh,
because
new commit.
probably, yeah, because
So it's working well.
It's me personally.
So
it's
first
not
pull.
that Your dumb user there.
And now push.
All my experience is dealing with TFS, with an actual TFS repository. I've not used Git very much, so that's why it's kind of unfamiliar to me, this section. But it follows the same suit as it does with TFS now, using the actual team
Okay.
foundation server as the repository.
So it was this file. And now we should see
Yeah, and it's my
my
big.
comment.
So you have new contributor.
Oh, thank you. Hopefully the user wasn't automatically added to the project.
Probably yes.
And now we should see on the work item, which is this one. Related to work in the development. So again, you see the same stuff, the different camouflage, a little bit camouflage differently.
Maybe I would have one question. Are you able to change the status with the commit of the ticket itself?
No, it's not integrated in Visual Studio this way.
So this you can do in Jira. Actually.
Okay.
What you can,
There's a way
what
to
you
change
can
the status.
change the ticket?
When you
make a typo.
Yes.
Yes, you can.
Yeah?
Yes,
Yeah,
you
you
can.
can.
From TFS, you
Yeah,
can
you
change
can.
the type.
Okay.
Status of the
From
ticket.
TFS,
Yeah,
but
there's an option.
it's a
to
part.
change
It's
the
a part
status.
of the commit. Is it possible?
Yes, yes, a part after the commit, it
So
will
as
change
you can
the
see,
status.
it's possible now. It's. Okay, so it was
So by-
similar as the Jira.
Unless you mean by performing a commit.
Yes,
you
maybe not in when you're using the Git, but when you're using TFS, 100% you are able to make like change the status of the task after
Mhm.
the commit. Yes,
Okay.
100%.
And
Okay,
Jenkins
so-
was mentioned there, so you have the build definition here, which was triggered by the commit, and
Ah,
now
so
it's
it was
it's
integrated.
waiting in the cloud for the free node to start the build. Okay. Let's look at the red lines. Small comment is missing. Yeah, you can see how I'm strict on myself.
There are some successful ones in there.
There are some green belts.
Do you
Yes.
want to look at the other ones? Let's demonstrate one that works.
Okay, number 7 is good one. When it's finished, it looks like this. You can calculate the code coverage for the unit test and all the stuff. It depends just on the build definition. Right now, there's build definition for the vNext. So first restore nugget packages, then build solution. But of course, you can add a lot of steps here. For the building, for the testing, making nugget packages, and deploy everything. As a part of the build, you can deploy everything to the Azure or to your on-premises servers. So basically, you can do all the stuff during the build. For example, in RWE, we have this setup used that after the build, there's Octopus for deployment. Automatically, we trigger the deploy to the test server to see if the results of the build process are runnable on the server itself. It's not designed for the testing, but just you can see that this package can be pushed to the test environment.
We've also been exploring with integrating PowerShell scripts into this as well,
Yeah.
so that you can use PowerShell scripts to actually deploy that out to where you want to deploy it to.
As you can see, you can build for Android, you can build for anything. You can queue the Jenkins job. So the TFS is really open system in this area, and they want to connect almost everything. Basically, the reason is that they can now provide the services in the cloud to run Java applications, Linux machines, all this stuff. So that's why it's integrated here.
Is it possible to trigger deployment and wait for the deployment response and then mark build as unsuccessful if deployment wasn't successful?
Yes. Yeah, you can.
It's a standard build step. So the build process, whole build process must pass all the steps to be successful. Otherwise, it's marked with the red one, which you can see, which we have seen, and you can set up the build process in the way that if the step fails, even then the build is marked as a successful. For example, copying files somewhere, it's not a crucial thing, so you say, okay, continue after this step, it's not a problem. But in the basic setup, every step must be green, must pass to mark the build as a successful one. Basically, the last steps of the build are packaging steps, so we create the nugget packages, and then you can tag them with it was a successful deployment or not. So the QA engineers can see if this should be pushed to the test environment and they should perform the tests or not.
What
Okay.
about the code reviews?
Code reviews. Still code reviews.
And what is the version of your TFS right now?
It's in cloud.
Okay.
So it's constantly
But
updated.
basically it's 2015 update 3.
Uh-huh.
Is really close to this one. It's missing just the package folder, because in the cloud version you can have your own nugget servers. In the on-premises version still doesn't have this plugin or this part integrated, but you can see you can create many feeds as you wish. And code review. Okay, basically, guys, Matúš, can you help me? Do this.
Free guys.
To have, as I presented you before, to have the code review, you need to create a pull request. But for that you need to have other branch. I don't know, here we have other branches.
You have 2 branches here.
Feature branch, right. And so you need to go to the new pull request, yeah. And then, you see better, I see. So when you have a new pull request, you can title, have a title here for your pull request, and then some description, and then here you need to say from which because you know the pull request is the process that you have 2 branches, and you want to you did some changes in your feature branch, and then you want to apply your changes to the destination branch, which is like devel or master or whatever. And pull request is this exactly between this that you create a pull request, and then the users, the developers can check it, and if there is no issue, you will merge to the destination branch, which is master or devel.
So for our proposals, the feature branch is devel, the target branch is master.
So it's working
So
the same
here
in
you see,
JIRA, yes?
Here is the same like JIRA, but I personally believe like JIRA has better feature. I tell you why. So but anyway,
What's that? Now you are here for TFS.
I'm not for TFS or JIRA. I just say like what is based on my experience.
I just came to play football.
I was using JIRA for code review. I'm not TFSP, I'm be honest. But I read about TFS. But I think JIRA is a really better tool for code review. I'm not saying about other things.
So you can set up here the same things.
Here
so
you say that, for example, from devel
to
the master, I need to create a pull request, and then here you assign. Here you assign who is going to review your code. It can be group or the person personally,
Related work items.
And
so
related
you know
work
what's
item
going
is
on.
not important. Then at the end, you just create your pull request. Where is it? Like this. Create pull request. Ooh, we didn't do any pull request for a long time.
You upstairs, I think.
You shouldn't scroll down.
No.
I don't see this. Like create pull request.
On the top.
Wait,
It is hidden by the drop down.
I don't see that. This.
Try Alt Enter. Click anywhere.
So easy.
Here, sorry. New pull request. Here, you create your pull request, and then your pull request is created, and you can click on the items and see the changes, see the differences. For example, here is like here if you go to the commits, you see the commits, which are all the commits which were done in this pull request, and here you see which file has been changed. There are plenty of file here, and this discussion is like if like for example someone add some commit. For example, here if you go here, I don't need some changes here. I don't see any changes here. This file it seems are new. But anyway, here for example you can add some comments. You see like you can say something, but this is not, I think, is not our subject. So, yeah.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
And it was the show how to solve the problem if you have it. Yeah? Ask the right person to help you. Thanks.
No problem.
Okay, so code reviews are here. If everything is fine, it can be merged and built for the release. Now we should continue with some.
Yeah. Now.
And now for something completely different.
Summarize. Yeah. So we could see how to work with the task, how to work with the code, how to connect the code changes to the tasks, how to trigger continuous integration builds. And yeah, what's left is the deployment process. I'm not sure if we are going to show deployment processes here because we don't have any target environment set up.
What about workflows?
But yeah, this is the thing. I want to ask about the workflows and about, because now what we could see was just one way of development, but there are unusual projects, at least two different code bases, one from backend, another for front end. Which has their for front end has their own code base with their own dev stack. So how JIRA is prepared for such situation, and yeah, about the workflows, how this can be incorporated into workflows, and then we can show the same for TFS.
You can show
if
me
you
where
have
it is
some idea about it. So yeah, let's close.
If I can find where it is. So you can create any number of custom workflows for JIRA. At NPower we tend to use one standard one at the moment, trying to keep the teams consistent because we've got 7 teams, so trying to make sure they're working consistently at the moment, but we are looking at further requests. I think there's one new project which is using its own workflow.
Well, all the tasks within one project should follow one workflow?
Within the same project, yeah.
Or
So
can it be divided that,
So-
for
so the-
example, there is different workflow for
the
front
front
end
end and
guys?
back end would all follow the same across all the teams.
Mhm.
The back end would follow the same, but their process might be different. Where can I find workflows on this this version?
For this project?
Yeah,
or
because
in general?
is it in? Because I used to admin the
You need to go to project settings actually.
get it in the admin of the project. Yeah.
At the bottom on the left side, the project settings.
Yeah. Okay.
Or maybe directly to ticket. Would be
There's the workflows. So what I found JIRA is it will give you a nice workflow diagram. So there's a basic workflow setup here, very basic as you can see.
Yeah.
That relates to our 3 columns. To do, done and in progress, and obviously you can see how those relate to each other.
In your opinion, whose task or whose responsibility is to set up workflows within, let's say we have
So I'd set up my own
agile
workflows.
team doing Scrum.
So I'd do the physical setting up in JIRA, but I'd be asking the team to tell me what their workflow is. I think because self-organising Scrum teams should decide how they work.
Yeah.
But I'm happy to admin. Most of my day I'm just a JIRA admin actually. Too much management anymore.
It depends about the team. So if there is administrator, usually this is his task, so he will just get a request.
Yeah, the performing, the setting up, of course, it's a matter of administrator. But yeah, my question is about whether what is, for example, a role of release manager, of QA guys, to set up the workflows that they can assure really the quality, that each task go through the steps it must go, that they can assure that the quality of delivery is.
So within JIRA you can also set up roles, so you can build all those people in. There's a really customizable administration decision tree where you can choose who can admin what. If you set all that up, you can give access to the test leads who maybe set up their workflow and make sure it moves and everything else. I was just going to quickly show you, if I go into configure this particular board, I'll show you where that feeds into this. So when you've got your workflow created and you're configuring the board, JIRA's never slow.
So now you introduce a new step into workflow?
I haven't, no. What I'm going to do is I'll show you how it relates to the board itself. So if I'm admin, so this is all configuration, all works on filter queries, so I can show and hide whatever I want. But with the columns, you can see here I've got my columns to do, in progress and done, and I can change the names of those. I can also move them around. I can add a new column, but if I do that, I'm going to have to decide which of my workflow stages apply to which of those columns. So sometimes you'll want to block something from being blocked straight into in progress. You might want to have it go back into to do before it goes into progress, and that way you can block it. So here you can control the flow of those issues, and as you add that in, it'll then add it to the it'll add it back to the board. So I can add a new column here. But unfortunately, I've run out of statuses.
Wow, it's just on the proper place.
So yeah, obviously I can move those around, add a resolved column in before the done stage, whatever you need to do. And as you go back to the board, you can see now my column's there, and obviously I can now move things into that column. So this will change the status as soon as you move these issues through. And in some instances, depending on your workflow, it might also throw a mobile window and ask you some questions on that. We can set maybe commenting, time tracking on an issue. If you move it into closed or move it into done, it's not set up here, but it will sometimes ask you for what the solution was to that, why it's been closed. Is it a duplicate? Is it resolved actually? Is it fixed? Can it not be fixed? And all that then feeds back via email to whoever's controlling the issue, so you can see if something's coming back to you, which is great if you're working offshore. We've got a couple of guys working offshore. Most of our team is on one floor, so we don't need to do that, but it's really useful to have that. There is a downside to that, and you can get a lot of emails every day from JIRA. A lot of emails. There's a function if you're bulk editing where you can turn the email off, but if you forget and you bulk edit 50 issues, everyone's going to get a lot of emails. So yeah, so it's pretty easy from that point of view, and as I say, depending on what workflow you've got created, depending on what workflow you add to your.
And one maybe thing I would add, you can actually combine tickets from multiple projects in one board, for example. So here you can see a ticket from one project, but there may be some cases that you are working maybe on different project and you want to manage it from one board, so you can actually just create a query and have there more projects.
So this can be a solution, for example, how to treat separately front end and back end to incorporate two different projects.
This is one of
into
them.
one.
Yeah, so it's all to do with the filter query for the board, and obviously you can control who sees that as well. And again, it's the same set of filter queries that you use for your issue filtering anyway. So you can build those in. So again, I can just choose which projects I want to be able that board to show.
Would you also then sync up the stories between these two projects? Because they are seen on the same board, but if I create the stories on one project, they would not end up on the other project, right?
No, so the projects are kept completely separate. So you've got projects, and within your projects you've got epics, issues, subtasks, etc. But you can show any project on any board depending on what you've filtered. we've had instances, and so there's also components, there's also labels and things like that, so you can also filter by those. So sometimes we might have, if I'm onboarding a team doing design, I might give them a discovery board, and anything with the label discovery appears on that board, and everything without it appears on the Scrum board, so I don't get the two boards mixed up, and they can work through their own sprints then. So within the same project, so you can also show the same project on multiple boards. It can get a bit messy if you don't control it, and you don't have a plan at the start, but if you've got a plan, you can fix it, and if you're the admin, you can keep control of that.
These features that you are presenting is by default part of the JIRA, or no, you have to pay? Because I remember in previous company, we want to have something like this agile work, and we have to pay and buy some component for that. Is it like true that we have to pay for each feature by the license or not?
So I don't know the answer to that because we've got it. I don't know if we've paid for it or not.
This is by default actually. Atlassian changed a bit the pricing model and product naming and so on, and now Agile is part of the JIRA itself. And there is two versions of JIRA. One is JIRA software for software development, and part of that is the previous Agile and JIRA. And then there is a JIRA core, which is more for business processes. So you don't need these development sections, and so you don't need maybe some other things. So it is more simpler version. And the thing is, in JIRA as well, that you can use it basically for any process. It may be development process, but it may be any kind of business, marketing, anything. And you can plan it the same way.
Yeah, we've got some guys using just a basic Kanban board for tasks. We've got some guys using it to process impact assessments. So if a project manager wants request an impact assessment, then they can attach their functional spec, attach the requirements, send it off, and then the team gets that request, processes the impact assessment, send it back. So we're using it for all sorts of things, not just development. And it means everything's in one place, and you can pass issues from one project to the next. So you can move issues from one project to the next, which was another question.
Is it possible to inject some custom logic on state change event?
Yes, you can. You can basically, in terms of workflows, there are some statuses, and then there are some transition buttons that you can move from this to this status. And when you press this transition button, you can define some features. One of them is, I want to show maybe the screen where you can fill some additional information if it is required. Then maybe I want to run some validation, that I want to move from one status to another one, but these specific fields need to be filled. Otherwise, I cannot go to another status. Then other one, maybe post functions, which are some maybe other functionality or maybe some custom functionality that will be called after this transition is completed. So the ticket moved to the target status. And there you can call either predefinite functions, or you can create scripts, like it is Python, for example, then there is some other languages, and you can write anything what should happen. Maybe send some custom email, or maybe create some ticket in other projects, or push some notification to other server, different application, anything. So, yeah.
Okay. Thanks. Now it's time for TFS to show us something about the workflows, if they want.
No, do we have to?
This is going to be very quick. Do you want to ask anyone from the audience to help this time? Or? This is going to be very, very quick.
You know, everything is optional.
Because there aren't any.
You can edit them if you have installed TFS Power Tools, Visual Studio.
Power Tools, I'm not sure if I have it.
Okay, so let's look for it.
I don't think so.
Ultimately, it's changing the status of the actual item.
I think not.
There's one disadvantage. You can change workflow only on the project setup, first setup. You cannot change it during the project's life.
Mm-hmm.
The reason is pretty simple. You can remove the states and you can lose your tasks which are in the state. So it's designed for the initial setup of the project. Okay, so let's look for Power Tools.
Yeah, and if this is a question for initial state of the project, yeah, then my question is whose role in a Scrum should be this to set up the proper workflow, by your opinion?
In my opinion.
I think, look on.
Where are my power tools? Yeah? You see download?
Yeah, and it opened.
Metro.
It opened Metro.
Who publishes this extension?
Okay.
The
So-
official distributor of power tools.
Power tools. Metro France.
Yeah. We are now
Okay, so
searching
we can
for La
wait.
Crèmerie.
So let's install
Milk shop, La Crèmerie.
Okay, so if you download Power Tools, you will get some diagrams in the Visual Studio. Let's find it. Yeah, that's how it looks in Visual Studio. So you can see the states, the transition. You can set the default reason, which can be overwritten during the transition. You can set the actions, the fields which are changed during transition. And what is missing here, you can set the permissions. So you can say from
Who is
awaiting
able to-
approval and accepted. For example, you can set the group QA engineers, and they this group is the only one who can move it to the state. So developers cannot cheat in this case, and they have to wait until it's approved by the QA. Basically, works similar as in JIRA. With the actions, you are not free to put some your own code. You just have to use what's available in TFS. But again, it's moving really forward really fast. So I think that you have a decent set of actions you can do. The next question was about two projects connected together.
Yes,
in the
about
TFS.
two
Yeah.
different, let's say, code bases for front end and back end.
So, okay, in
let's say
TFS.
how to incorporate front end into TFS, into project, or
If you have two projects in TFS, you cannot connect them directly right now.
Yes.
It's planned, but it's not possible
yeah,
right
it's
now.
not possible at the moment, but it is
You-
planned. I was discussing with somebody at Microsoft that it is coming soon, and they are planning to look to release it in the next, hopefully, a few weeks, but it's probably going to look like a couple of months.
So-
However, there is actually something called Power BI, which is basically a way of being able to report on projects at a higher level, and it allows you to be able it allows you to be able to query the cube that sits for TFS, so you can actually make queries and display graphs and display information for multiple projects at the same time. So it is possible to be able to do it, but it's something you have to use Microsoft BI to be able to do it, and you need an account with them to do that too.
Okay, so. But in the special case, how to connect backend and front end?
yeah, it doesn't
Of course,
to
we
be
have
two different
solution.
projects. It can be other way around.
Thing. Because front-end is a completely different development stack, Microsoft decided to bring the solution how to connect those things together.
No, nice to see.
Oh, nice to see. Where is my project? I don't know. I updated everything.
Open it because you closed.
You closed Visual Studio, so it's not open yet. I would
But
say.
it's still syncing something.
Yeah, the repository is open, but the solution file probably not. Recent projects and solutions.
Oh, okay.
Yes. That's your one.
It's mine. Okay. So in the future we will have two possibilities how to connect those two things together.
Yeah,
One
that's
is in
audience there.
one is in Visual Studio directly.
Mhm.
So now I've added load fail grade. So I will show it live. You can adjust the new project. You don't have Unix installed. I was very happy with this.
You can use your PC, for example.
Yeah, do we have this? Yeah, we have this one. So I will use my nice Microsoft device. And now you can see the Unix website project, which completely incorporates the front-end dev stack as a dependency. And in Gulp file, you can set your task to build the front-end and incorporate it with your backend code.
Very cool.
So there is no need to have two separate projects.
Perfect.
And it's solved.
Yeah.
So you see at least something was nice. Peter is asking.
Yeah, I have a question. I think you are showing the applications seem to be very similar from what I see. I see one group using Apple, the other one Microsoft. It seems like a passion for something. Now, when we come to the actual project, and the developers have got one tool, the project team has got the other tool, we have to transfer data, right? And it's essentially for me about to have only one application that can serve the purpose of the both teams, so we can share the same data. And the question is, what are the benefits and what are the downsides of each of the applications to actually have different working habits, different workflows for the different teams? I would say developers would be using a different workflow. The project managers or the business analysts, they would be part of yet another workflow. So I'm curious, is it actually feasible for all these people to actually collaborate on one single application?
Basically, TFS has nothing to do with project management. It's a development support or development management application. It's not designed to collect requirements, so you need something more to work with business analysts. It's just a tool which integrates all the tools necessary to deliver the application itself. So to deliver the product, but the part of analysis and the rest stuff is not covered here.
Why not? I mean, you can still create the user stories, right? So
yeah, user stories, but user stories are based on some analysis of requirements. User story is just a shelf over a lot of work before it. So, and you don't see, you cannot try this work. You can, of course, add attachment with some Word document, with some PDF, where is this process written. So what was the questions to do, for example, business owner, what was his answers, what's the result of this analysis, but the user story itself is just few lines of the text. So you can only link it to these items, or you can put external link to different systems. For example, to enterprise architect repository to get the documents from there, but it's not designed to be in TFS directly. So it covers really the development from the first letter in the code to deliver it to the servers.
well, I was to say, I think it covers more. I mean, for me, the development of the user story can be as a phased out workflow statuses that are only managed by the business team. And once it's in the definition of ready, it can be passed over to the dev team. Once it's in the definition of done, it can be passed back to the customer. Or to the
but basically we are talking about one big workflow right now. Not a separated workflows for different roles in the TFS.
I'm going to actually.
In TFS, you can limit separate phases of the workflow to different user groups.
You
right?
can allow the transitions from one state to another state for specific groups only.
So the only thing I've discovered is that in TFS, the board, it can only show, there can only be one board shared by the team, somehow. And in JIRA, we discovered that there can be multiple boards just picking different types of statuses, which seems to be a bit more serving the purpose of combining multiple teams to work together. Maybe
Yeah, basically in the TFS you have the boards which are separated in this way. Of course you can do some filtering or grouping. You can select the person, so I can just highlight the unassigned tasks. You can change the grouping, but there's nothing like board for the group.
What I thought would be working is that the workflow for the stories, the board could be set up for the let's say business analyst team, and the board for the iteration that could be set up for the actual developers, right?
You'd probably be more likely to use
Would you do that?
dashboards for that sort of aspect, so that you're able to you're able to see more information regarding to not just what's being worked on in the board, but sort of more information about what's being collected in the.
Basically, you can use queries for this one. So you can select or you can assign the users who can access the query. That's possible, and you can see the tasks which are specific for some groups. You can put it here on the front page, so you can have fast link, but there is no special board for it.
But you can
Two
create as
boards
many
for
dashboards as you
iteration,
want.
The two boards for iteration and stories, they are separated, right? I can define the
Yeah.
columns separately.
Yeah.
Okay, so at least that. Okay.
There's iteration board and there's story board.
So how does TFS understand different projects? Because everything's one project, we're just dealing with an iteration of that project.
It's not supported right now.
Yeah. Okay.
So you can have just one project.
So I think that's where the split comes, because I can have a design project and a build project if I want to split those apart.
But how do you define a project?
Well, that's yeah, but then you get into
That's in TFS.
everything. So
Yeah.
our website NPower.com is one project, and everything we do is an iteration of that. But we deal with small.
But when you
applications and stuff,
class
but-
each project as being a feature of that NPower.com.
Well, yeah. So you're getting into definitions of when you're talking specifically about the building of an application against just project management in general. So JIRA allows us to do project management in general, whereas this is really focused on, like you say, taking a user story and getting it through out to live. But JIRA does that. There's just this strange flexibility just to be able to process any task. You know, it doesn't even have to be a development task. It could be go and get my coffee. It could be.
Okay, and basically
You know,
the project in TFS means some code, some source code.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
That's the project in the TFS way of thinking.
Maybe I have one question. Can you run parallel sprints, like multiple sprints at the same time?
We can try.
Let's have a go. I've never tried that before.
So you'd have one team using one instance of TFS.
Yeah. No, not one instance of TFS, but it's called team project.
Okay.
And you create team projects, so they have separated code base and all this stuff, so that's how it works.
Let's see what it does.
Okay, so now we have 1 second.
Yes.
Yeah, I can.
Is the answer to that?
Maybe
Yes, you can.
this is some bug in TFS that they do not check the dates, but
Yeah, because the
it's
team's not
possible.
going to agree to that. Do you mind doing 2 sprints at once?
But it's possible.
And maybe one more thing, I would be curious, is there any kind of reporting on top of the sprints, let's say? Or
You can connect the TFS to the reporting services on the Microsoft SQL Server, where it's about 20 reports ready, like bug turnover and work done in the sprint.
So burn down charts and
you get everything. Burn down charts are directly in the TFS.
You can build those in the dashboard, so you can basically just build. You can build and burn down charts, velocity graphs, and things like that all into the different dashboards. Power BI is sort of taking over reporting services as being a central area of reporting. So yeah, that's become extremely powerful because you can basically report across all of your projects all at the same time. So if you do want to view more than one project at once, you can do, and you can compare and see, where they are.
Okay.
And with the version 2015, the reporting comes directly from the Microsoft, so you don't have to use the third-party tools.
Yeah.
And I think that's all. We should give the time for audience.
Now this time for your questions. We still have like about 10 minutes as we started later. Yeah,
Martin, please.
No, just general question.
Yes, you can go.
Well, I'm just interested, how did you guys, like, did you guys prepare together, like, for this lesson, or this is like the first time?
This is the first time we met.
Yeah, this is the first time.
Yeah.
Straight in.
Personally, we just aligned through emails, and that was it.
And video con.
Why you ask this petty question?
Just, you look so, confident, and the presentation is so cool. I'm just wondering what I need to do, to master it the way you do.
I have to confess, we have short alignment for the opening scene.
Yes.
It was for 2 minutes.
It was only a little bit.
It was
to start with.
Yeah, it was the only thing we trained.
I think one topic wasn't covered is like tracking a work progress during the sprints. And maybe what the possibilities in TFS and JIRA comparable to each other. How much work we need to do, how many hours, and so on and so on and so on. Team related.
As you're plugged in, do you want to do you first and I'll
Basically,
plug back in for.
this one is burn down chart. But it shows nothing.
Because we haven't got anything in progress.
We have no progress right now.
Of course it worked.
But TFS is burn down charts. Of course, you can set your own queries again to get the tasks which are not finished, which are finished. As I show you, you can use Excel for this to report everything. You can use reporting, which is included in on-premises services. It's not available in the cloud yet.
It gives you it by the hours left in the sprint that you have. It also allows you to be able to set each person's hours per day, so that it allows you to be able to correctly accurate predict whether you're going to make basically complete the sprint or not.
This widget is about capacity of the sprint.
Yeah.
So you can set working hours, you can set exceptions of every developer, and you can clearly see how many hours you have. During the planning, if you put assign the task, you can see the live progress, how every resource is utilized. So that's the way how we can track this in the TFS.
What about JIRA?
So the first thing we get in the basic tools is a quick fire, how many issues we've got in progress, how many are finished there. Within the reporting tools, you've got your burn down, which is obviously live. Basic burn down chart. You can file a sprint report. I wouldn't say these are particularly pretty. It's quite hard in the table view to see exactly what's happening. The graphs make it a lot easier. Over time, you can build things until you've got a certain amount of sprints. These are useless to you, but you can start to build release burn downs and epic burn downs over time. The best function, and it won't show you anything here, that I use most often is where I've got a version which I'm trying to get live based on the current velocity that the team are working at and what's remaining in the sprint, in the backlog for that version. It'll predict a date for my release. So, as well as working in sprints, I can also report on individual versions and say, look, based on reality, because the business doesn't like reality, they like what you told them last year, we do it in. Yeah, it gives an actual date, and it gives you a date, and it also gives you a positive and a negative view of that, so there's a range in which you might hit your velocity date. And that's really, for me, that's the one I focus the team on. So by working a little extra, they can actually pull that date forward, and it's quite a good thing for a team to be able to see that. So that's one of the ones I use most often. All this can be exported into Excel. I don't actually use the import function because they won't let us, because they think we're going to break it if we do. You can export entire details to Excel. You can export your filter queries as well. So if you want to run those reports, same sort of thing, just export straight to Excel and plug it into whatever graphs you've got in there. But these graphs are really useful. I don't use any more than this, to be honest.
I think one other, the velocity report, I think is quite useful as well. At least this one I have started using. That you can see how many, for example, story points you have planned for your sprint, and how many story points you have delivered per each sprint. So you can actually measure the performance maybe of your team and maybe better estimate the next sprint, and and improve on this. So you planned so many stories that you are almost sure that approximately you can deliver. So there is no overall.
So part of the challenge for us for next, or at least the next 6 months, is NPower at RWE have been working in Agile since the middle of last year. It's not been fully adopted. There's a loose framework around it, and we're pushing to make sure that we're properly agile. One of the things is that the teams aren't working to a consistent measurement of velocity, so we don't know who's performing and who isn't. So the first thing is to make sure everyone's using story points and setting things to get these charts up, so we can actually see which teams are performing. We might even create some sort of league table, you know, something with a prize at the end of it, maybe just to get people pushing forward in their teams. So yeah, again, what I do like is the simplicity of the information. I think you can be overrun, especially as a developer working within that sprint. It's fine for business analyst or someone who wants to dig deep, but to get a quick daily or hourly view of how you're getting on, the simple charts are the best.
Thank you. There was another question there. Matúš? Okay, I thought it was said.
I think, in my opinion, JIRA is really well designed for the project manager to especially if you want to use Scrum and Scrum methodology, and especially it's a very great tool to get the reports. But if you want to have for developers perspective, for example, if you want to set up a build, you need Jenkins. It's not to set up build to have in JIRA, let's say. And this build is not it's not convenient to set up the build and deployment process, but in TFS is very easy to set up a build, and it's very easy because it's like part of Microsoft product. Do we have some? But I don't know. We were using Jenkins to build and deploy. Does JIRA has some tool that make it easier to set up this build process and deployment process without using PowerShell? I think without using PowerShell.
So this is definitely a question for you. But what I'd start with from a project management point of view is I think any decision made by us or any other company, I think the developers would have a louder voice in all of this, because for me, getting my projects through the build and the release and out to live, and that operation is far more complex than me managing what I could actually do with a load of post-it notes and a whiteboard if I had to. So from a management point of view, I'd probably accept whatever decision the development team made, but as far as JIRA being able to do that, that's not something.
For example, with our teams, we have integrated Jenkins with Bitbucket, and then in JIRA as well. So when we push something, as I explain it to Bitbucket, it triggers an action in Jenkins, and they'll run the build, and you can see the information also in the JIRA ticket. There is a Jenkins plugin for JIRA, I think this is the name, where actually it retrieves the information from Jenkins as it is connected with Bitbucket, and then JIRA, you can see the result of the build in your specific tickets, for example.
Actually, we use this even without JIRA, even without Bitbucket. We have the settings on our Git repository. When you push something, Jenkins server builds.
Okay, but for Jenkins, you need to know the PowerShell, I think?
No, Bash. Jenkins is using Bash or PowerShell.
I don't know. I'm not sure. One of these scripting languages, which normally developers are not familiar with that, and it's not very convenient to define some build process deployment. Is any tool, because in TFS is very easy. You just define a build very easily, because it's like Microsoft product. You know how to build it, know how to use MS Build, and that's it. It's very easy. But it's just 5 minutes. You set up a build. Do we have such a tool in JIRA?
It depends. There are maybe two views. One is to configure the application itself so they can communicate together, and the other one is to define the configuration of the Jenkins build itself. So what will happen when I will trigger this Jenkins job? It will do maybe build the application and maybe release it to some server. So there are different views. I'm not sure if you are pointing to the first one, how it is integrated together.
I think it's about the Jenkins setup.
No, I just don't want to use Jenkins. Something which is like in JIRA, and it's very easy to set up, like to have a build.
Yeah, it's not. You need to configure it always there in Jenkins. Yeah.
Okay, time for the last two questions. I think Alexi wanted, and then Petar. Alexi, do you still wanted to ask?
I forgot my first question, but, the second one is right now in our project we are using TFS and the JIRA, and maybe there is like some, and we always need to copy the links from one system to another to have the connection between them. Maybe is there any like solution to communicate, to connect?
There is. There is. I've used it in a previous company of mine, and there is a way to be able to connect JIRA to TFS and replicate the items from one place to the next.
Right.
So yes, it is possible.
Okay.
But not advisable.
It's not advisable because it's very difficult to set up because of the different fields in the actual process. So there's different fields that don't quite marry up to what TFS is looking for and vice versa. So and across the JIRA as well. So it doesn't really kind of marry up amazingly well, but it is possible, and there is something that you can do that.
And you have to synchronize the workflows, so they must be they must be same in TFS and JIRA. Because of status of the task, so if you change something into non-existing state, you
Maybe,
lose this.
is it possible, like for example, to synchronize only the one field, for example, like description, not the whole, like task or something?
No, because what you would like to do with the new items, you just send description only. No,
Yeah,
you have to
I
send the
understand.
whole item all the time. So
Yeah.
It does sync changes though, so if you've got both in both places and you just want to change one field in one place,
in the one
it will
field.
replicate to the other other
yeah.
item. So yeah, so it does change the other one and the other way as well.
Yeah, I understand. Okay, thank you.
I think you mentioned that you were attempting to, you did that in NPower, and you mentioned it took you half a year, I think, to really get it working, right?
It was very difficult to get. Yes, it was.
So with that you get a new project, and to set it up working, it's syncing to applications is really not the way to manage development. Like it's just not the way to do. For me, like having same set of information in two different places is just unacceptable to manage in this environment. And I'm curious, Ben already mentioned it, is who will be more hurt? The developers or the Scrum Masters and the business analysts if we go with one single application, which is really the path forward for the application to manage it all. Otherwise we're just going crazy. We are just copying, pasting information. It's just not the way to work these days.
I think
just
I think
one advice: developers shouldn't be hurt. Okay. They do the job.
I think coming from a development background, I think that TFS has because very familiar with working with Visual Studio. There's Visual Studio Code now that you can use for front end, and I think Microsoft is probably covering more. And I know these guys probably next to me are going to argue this, but that Microsoft's probably covering quite a bit more of that umbrella than say you having to plug in third-party systems and different areas. Whereas Microsoft is covering the whole thing, and they interact seamlessly. I'm sure you guys are going to argue this.
No, I can't really, because my take on it would be, I've got a team of 5 Scrum Masters. I'd rather they concentrated on the framework than worry about the technology. I don't think we'd be hurt if you moved us to something else. So to answer your question, I think it will always favour the development team, because at the end of the day, that tool, from what I've seen of all the tools, the tool is key to making sure that the process can be smooth, can be bug-free, can be done quickly. I mean, we're currently dealing with very large month-to-month releases with a lot of complex merge going on, various projects, various code bases, various areas of the site. From what I've seen from either of these solutions is we can start to do that on a smaller user story basis. A Scrum, that for me is a much bigger win than a Scrum Master getting more admin time back, if you know what I mean, because it is just a small admin issue. If they've got to use post-its on a board, then fine, as long as they're moving the project along. It's great technology. JIRA really helps me, but I think it's less painful for me to lose it than it is for me to put something that's wrong for a development team. I'm saying that because I'm sat in a room full of developers. I don't want to get out alive.
Is there a difference in cost? Coordinating.
It's not the same part of
We have
presentation.
this end-to-end solution. What is the difference in cost for JIRA and Microsoft? Does anyone know? Are we comparing?
It's a very good question.
It was
Well,
about $10, I think.
for JIRA it is around, when I take into account the unlimited licenses, so 10,000 plus, it is around $12,000 or $16,000 per the product, and then it is 50% for the support on the year basis. And if basically you can decide if you want to have the support of show Atlassian or the. If you don't wish to have the support, you can still have the product, you can use it, but you cannot upgrade to the new version, and you cannot actually have the support from the Atlassian. So.
And we decline to answer because it's Microsoft. So
Basically,
It's a lot.
You can buy TFS as a product from Microsoft, but it's not a usual way. Basically, you pay for some silver or gold program with Microsoft, and you buy MSDN licenses. They cost nearly the same as unlimited version of JIRA, and every year you have to pay for it. You have updates, everything there, but you get a lot of development tools. You get some licenses to Office software, so it's hard to say what is more expensive and what less in this case.
And the other thing actually are maybe the plugins. So for JIRA there is a marketplace with a huge number of plugins that will support some maybe other features and support some other processes and so on. And the cost for them is based on the license of JIRA or other tools that Atlassian have. So if you have maybe the unlimited license for JIRA and you want to install some other plugins that is maybe really good and you would like to have it, the cost may be very similar than the JIRA itself. And it is just JIRA plugin, maybe one small feature of the whole JIRA when you compare it. So this is maybe the other thing that I don't like because if you want to use maybe a larger number of the plugins, the costs will increase rapidly based on these licenses.
Is it possible to write your own plugin?
Yes, you can. There is a good documentation and knowledge base, so you can write anything you like basically. And you can write it also as part of the custom fields, or maybe the past functions, so you can include it into workflows. So it is quite easy to write something simple, for example.
Okay, Microsoft started marketplace for TFS a few weeks ago. So we have it too. We have it too. If you remember the package item in the menu, it's from the marketplace. And what I think, they are testing the new features this way before they are incorporated into TFS itself. Because package is in some beta version still, but it's available on the marketplace.
And Microsoft are hugely pushing to get people to actually write things to publish to the marketplace. From everything from managing projects to displaying information to doing builds and releasing out to service. So there's quite a lot of, they're pushing quite hard to get people to do that, probably because they want to buy to see what happens.
Okay, thank you very much for your answers and for your questions as well. And that's all for today.
We can close it with the same question as in the beginning.
Okay.
Maybe you will be surprised.
Okay. But first, before we really go, here are the contacts of all four guys. I hope they are open to answer your further questions. And so, Milan, what's your preferred solution for?
Of course, JIRA.
Okay, so change your mind. Ben, what's your?
Yeah, TFS.
TFS. Mirek, did you change your mind?
I was thinking maybe TFS, maybe JIRA, I still not decided.
So still deciding it. Ian?
JIRA and TFS. I'm going for both.
Both together.
Yeah, let's go both.
You see that our panelists change their mind, and some of them are not decided yet. Okay, thank you.